Okay. So, over the weekend, um, I should say, so there's a bookseller, a secondhand bookstore seller. What am I trying to say? There's a secondhand bookstore in Winnipeg that I follow on Instagram, and the owner posted this book on Instagram, and I got so excited, and my heart just started racing, and I was like, I have to own that. Like, first of all, I think the cover on this is just so elegant and classy. Also, The Spice Box of Earth by Leonard Cohen. This book was originally published in 1961. Like, oh my goodness, like even just the writing, I just love, like, oh my God, it's gorgeous. And it's Leonard Cohen, and it's in great condition, and it was stupidly expensive. I've never spent this much money on a book before, especially not a poetry book, but it's Leonard Cohen. So I'm not even, I have no regrets yet, maybe ever. I have no regrets. I'm excited. I'm super excited about this. But so this was my one super. There's two super excited books that I'm super excited about. This was one of them. So while I was in that store though, and I had gone there to drop off a bunch of books that I had culled from my collection. So it's kind of nice because she said I couldn't use any of it towards this. She wanted straight cash for it because it was super pricey and a rare book and all that kind of stuff. Um, but uh, yeah, I got a good deal on this. So one of them was Sources of the River, the Tracking David Thompson Across Western North America. So I'm always kind of interested in early explorers and things like that. I don't know much about David Thompson, so I thought, well, I'd give this a try. Hopefully, this historian is a good and interesting writer. If not, oh well, not much loss, right? I exchanged it. And then Ezzy, I'm going to say her last name wrong, Ezzy Ejigayan, who wrote Washington Black. This is my own ignorance. I thought that was her first book. I thought it was her first novel. I thought, wow, what a brilliant writer. Turns out, no, not at all. Um, so, I, yeah, she wrote this one, Half Blood Blues, which is about musicians in 1940s Paris, which I think is going to be really interesting. And um, I don't. There's a weird newspaper clipping in here about girls in the Taliban. I don't know. That woman looks crazy. Anyway, um, so it goes. But yeah, so I got that one as well. Okay, then I went to a movie. It was the Late Show movie because I was super sick, and so I ended up begging off like half a day of meetings. They were just doing a fun activity, so I was like, I want to go to bed. So I went back to my hotel and ended up sleeping like the whole afternoon. So then, of course, I was like awake all evening. So I decided to go see Jojo Rabbit, which was awesome and amazing. And oh my goodness, I've been like, I've been living at the end of a dirt road in the middle of the forest, and I didn't realize like movie theaters now have these giant reclining seats. You could like fit two of me in them, and yeah, they're super like swanky. I don't know. Anyway, it was really an amazing experience, and also what a great movie. Highly recommend that movie as well. Anyway, but while I was waiting at the, I had gone to get, this is gonna sound so bougie. I had gone to get a massage at the spa. Um, it's it's a thing I do. I don't need to justify myself to you. Okay, so um, I had done that, and I didn't want to go all the way back to the hotel because the movie was gonna start like in an hour or so. So I popped in. There's uh another of my favorite booksellers is in that mall. It used to be a really tiny independent bookstore when I was young and had moved to the city. It just was a little independent coffee shop bookstore in a really um, fun and funky area of town, and that's kind of been taken over now and gentrified and whatever. And the bookstore is not there anymore. Um, they moved into this mall and became kind of like the anchor store for the mall, and really expanded. And for a while, they were really, I really loved them. They were great. And then Chapters moved in, and now, unfortunately, they seem to be trying to compete with Chapters. Like they're selling clothing. I don't like that. I really don't. Just takes away from the whole thing, the whole experience. So, yeah, they're not necessarily my favorite bookstore anymore. But anyway, while I was there, I've been recently, I'm not a big mystery fan at all. I don't really read mysteries. But lately, I've been kind of feeling nostalgic for when I was a teenager. And for a little while, I got super into Agatha Christie novels. Um, and honestly, after Agatha Christie, nothing really ever compared to her. So I just didn't really do mysteries, but I thought it's been a really long time. I could read these and be like reading them like brand new. Um, yeah, so, but I was having really a lot of struggle trying to find, especially the Miss Marple series online. So they had this complete short stories, and I love short stories. I think short stories are really nice. Kind of when you're in between books and you're trying to figure out where you want to go next with that, or even if you're just kind of in a situation where you don't want to get too deep into something. I do love short stories. So I thought, well, I'll start with this and then I'll see if it's worth like pursuing, trying to find more of the novels and that sort of thing. So I got this book. And then in the bargain bins, I found Isabel Allende in the midst of winter. I love Isabel Allende most of the time. I sometimes like I started reading The Japanese Lover and I kind of put it to the side. I'm not ready to say yet that I DNF'd it, but I did put it aside. I thought, well, I'll try it again, and I still haven't picked it up again. But I will try it again. I will try it one more time. But usually I love her books, so I have a feeling that one might just be not for me, but hopefully this one will be. Okay, so I picked those up at McNally Robinson, and then um, the next night, I met a friend of mine for dinner just before we went to the theater. Uh, yeah. And she's so lovely. She brought me, it's so funny. I brought her books too. But for a Christmas present, she brought me this book, and I've seen this book talked about, possibly even on BookTube, but I'm not sure exactly where. It's called Who Goes Canoeing with Their Mother-in-Law? And I am not a canoeist. And I don't have a mother-in-law at all, so. But it's still a book about paddling. And what's neat about it is, first of all, my friend actually knows the author, so I will eventually give this back to her, and she's going to get him to sign it for me, which is pretty cool. Also, what's super neat about this book, though, all the stories he's telling are about trips he's been on uh, within the province that we live in. So they are all potentially trips I could go on if I wanted to. And what is so lovely is he got his mother, who is a retired art teacher, to do artwork. So for one thing, isn't this just a lovely bookmark? I think it's gorgeous. I absolutely love that. Um, but also for every one of the trips, his mother-in-law has drawn beautiful handmade maps to go with it. I think that's just gorgeous and lovely. And yeah, so I'm very excited about this book. What a lovely gift. I think it'll be brilliant. I'm hoping to, if I ever get over this illness that I'm having right now, um, go do some dirt bagging out on the West Coast. And I think this would be a lovely book to take with me while I'm doing that. Just look at these beautiful, I just think it's so gorgeous. So anyway, so I'm very excited about that book too. So I have lots of books that I'm excited about. I have two books that I'm kind of like, yeah. The other book-ish thing that happened this weekend is that I did finally get to have coffee. Actually, I met my father for brunch. I haven't seen him in about 3 years, so that was so lovely and so exciting, and it was just really nice to see him again. But while we were having brunch, he told me he's thinking about moving, and then he'd had a flood in his basement. And I had given him some books years ago to store for me when I moved up here because I didn't have room for them, and they were books that I wanted to keep because I had already read them, or they were from authors that I loved and hadn't gotten around to reading yet, but I knew I would want to. Um, and so I had kept all these books and got him to keep them for me, and I decided that probably I should take them off his hands. It's not really fair to leave him holding on to these books, especially if he's going to move again. So it's 3 boxes of books, and I think I'm going to do another video of me just checking out what's in there, and we'll see if I'm actually really still all that excited about them, if it was actually worth storing them for all these years, or if I've made a terrible mistake. And I wasn't entirely sure I was going to do that either, but I started thinking about it, and I thought, you know what, it might be good for me just to like have that to refer back to, so that when I move again, if I start thinking, oh, I have to keep these books because blah 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 blah, it might be good to go back and see my reaction and be like, yeah, you thought that last time, and then it turned out years later when you looked in there that you weren't all that excited about the books. So we're gonna find out. Maybe I will be super excited about the books, and I'll be like, oh, it's so worthwhile, and I need to get a bookshelf now to put them on. Let's do that. I'm gonna make that video, and then we'll we'll see how it goes. I'm starting to lose my voice too. It's just too much talking with all of this going on. Anyway, happy reading.